mountain, saying that he has the full support of President Uhuru Kenyatta and that they speak frequently, which was meant to imply that whatever he was doing had the full blessings of former President Uhuru Kenyatta. And so for President Uhuru Kenyatta to meet with the President William Ruto, to me it is a huge blow to Rigathi Gachagua, because he has been gaining a lot of credibility, if I may, on the mountain, because he's always found a way to cling on to Uhuru as a straw in this turbulent ride that is this current political ride that is having. So now with this handshake, Rigathi Gachagua and his handlers will have to go back to the drawing board and find a different straw to cling on to, if I may.
Yes. When you see these two gentlemen, again, the clip is still there, the two gentlemen, of course the body language, we've talked about that, but the restive Mount Kenya politics, and you've talked about the Rigathi Gachagua effect. What do you think is now the pulse of Mount Kenya speaking generally? Because after the ouster of Rigathi Gachagua, people would argue, or someone would argue, that he's gained more popularity even before, more than when he was still in office, and the two now meeting. Does this meeting have some kind of effect to erode that influence?
Well, first of all, talking about popularity, the question that one would pose is popularity to what end?
Okay.
As far as his own political career is concerned. So you can gain popularity, but still, you know, we have popular villagers too. We all grow up in villages. We have those very popular villagers, whether they are walking in slippers or barefoot, they are still popular. So the fact that you are popular doesn't mean so much, because at the end of the day, the people of the mountain should be able to exercise their minds and ask themselves, this man has convinced us that we are being oppressed, but then at the end of the day, is he really able to take us where we aspire to go? If I may use the proverbial journey to Canaan, that Baba, exercised himself to for a very long time, and every time he found crocodiles on the river, and at every point he tried to create a bridge. After, if Rigathi is promising to take the mountain somewhere, are they guaranteed that he's going to cross that bridge with them? I think that is the most important question that the people of the mountain should exercise their minds to. As it is right now, there are certain bridges that former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua cannot cross. So even with all the mountain as a block to a man behind him, there are certain bridges that he cannot cross with. So even in terms of imagining what is on the other side of the river, the people of the mountain should not waste their time, even for a moment, to imagine that Rigathi Gachagua will draw the clear picture of what is on the other side of the river, considering that there are certain bridges he cannot cross. So now with President Uhuru Kenyatta, whom he has been clinging on to, having met President William Ruto and that handshake in Shaweri having taken place, popularity is going to take a huge beating. One, you cannot underestimate the influence of President Uhuru Kenyatta and the respect and the honor that the people of the mountain have for him. So Rigathi Gachagua has been gaining ground in leaps and bounds because President Uhuru Kenyatta has not been saying anything. He's been minding his business. He's been all over the continent, and he's not been very busy locally. So all it takes is one or two statements from Uhuru Kenyatta, and Rigathi Gachagua will have no straw to cling on to. And his popularity will take a beating.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, generally, let's come out from Kenya and then come back to Kenya. The two gentlemen, they are good buddies.
Oh, sure.
The key word is bromance. I mean, when they started their reign in power, we would see the clips when they went for photo shoots and all that. The camaraderie between the two was quite evident.
Yes.
But towards the end of election, things were not, politically speaking. You know, they had to be enemies at some point because of politics. What do you think is running through the minds of Wanjiku right now, the voter?
The voter?
Yes.
Well, I don't think, of course, for those who bought the idea that Uhuru Kenyatta, former President Uhuru Kenyatta and President William Ruto's relationship was irreconcilably broken, they will now have to think twice and to appreciate why we've always said there are no permanent enemies in politics. And why former governor of Uasin Gishu, Mandago, tells people, "Usieke siasa kwa roho, weka kwa lungs," you know.
Yeah.
Now people will now appreciate those who really put it in the heart. Now are going to learn the hard way. Yes.
Okay. Let's take a break. I want to serve you tea.
It's a problem.
Tuendelee.
Yes, sure.
Stay with us.
Okay.
Welcome back. Mark,
Yes.
let's enjoy a coffee.
Yes, sure.
All right? Yeah. Cheers. Let's enjoy. You can also enjoy your coffee back home because this is a Good Morning Kenya. We do, and it's branded Good Morning Kenya. Yeah. We all have our cups of tea, coffee. So welcome back to the program. Now, let's come back and talk slightly and a bit what has been the lips of many, and now the issue of IEBC. I'll come back to the issue of the two gentlemen. Don't blame me. Kalonzo says of IEBC panel delays with the constitutional crisis on Electoral and Boundaries Commission issues worsening. Leaders now engaging in blame game, but they all agree that the matter should be resolved as a matter of urgency. I repeat, I had this discussion here last week on Monday, and it took traction. And a week after that, we're still talking about IEBC. Jackson Lesapit talked about it, Archbishop Anglican Church of Kenya. But the gentleman who blew it now out of the bag was Justice Isaac Lenaola last week. And let me just get your voice on this. As a voter, first of all, as a Kenyan, we don't have IEBC in place. Constitutional timeline is 3 years into the election. We've done 2.5 already. Yeah.
Well, I think Justice Isaac Lenaola did raise fundamental questions.
Yes.
And I watched another show where Dr. Ekuru Aukot asked very simple questions about how can the rights of a citizen be put on hold because of a process or a legal challenge in court.
Yeah.
And yet these rights are fundamental rights. Say, for example, the right to participate in governance of the country in terms of elections and all that. The right to be registered as a voter is a constitutional right. How do you put it on hold for many unregistered youth who have attained the age of voting, not being registered as voters because we do not have a commission in place? The answer from where I sit is that our commission, it's not that we don't have IEBC, it's just that the commission is not fully constituted.
Yes. The office is there.
There are exercises in the electoral process that are normally conducted by the Secretariat.
Yeah.
Voter registration never conducted by the commissioners because it doesn't require any policy because it is the commissioners are responsible for policy and the Secretariat for implementing the policy. But as far as voter registration is concerned, there is already an existing policy on that. So we don't need to wait until there are commissioners in place for the Secretariat to do what they already know how to do, and they have the wherewithal. They have constituency coordinators who are permanent, unlike in the past, where the commission would engage them on temporary basis during the electorate. Now they are permanent employees. They are there earning salaries. The commission has the wherewithal to continue with voter registration. In fact, the Constitution talks about, the Elections Act talks about continuous voter registration exercise. So it's supposed to be continuous. It is not subject to, the commissioner has to be there for the voter registration to take place. At least there are some things that are the mandate of the commission that can be done by the Secretariat without necessarily having the commissioners in place. But then the delimitation of the boundaries. This is the cycle which constitutionally we are supposed to do boundary delimitation. And so the lack of a fully constituted commission in itself jeopardizes that mandate of the commission in this season and frustrates it, and therefore has the implication of spilling over and affecting everything, even up to 2027. Yeah. So when it comes to the issue of why the commission has not been constituted,
because of the two court cases,
Kalonzo Musyoka cannot play innocent because he is not innocent. The issue is the matter that is before, that is undergoing litigation, is actually Kalonzo's party is at the heart of it. Their nominee, Dr. Koki Muli, lost to a person from a smaller party who was elected to sit, to sit on the panel. So Kalonzo insisted Koki Muli has to be there. So Kalonzo is at the heart of this. So he cannot say, I'm not the one to blame, this thing needs to be done. No. If he really means what he means, then let them withdraw. Let them withdraw from this case, and that is it. The person who won, who was selected, regardless of which party they come from, should sit on the panel. So Kalonzo should not play innocent. He is not innocent. His hands are not clean.
There's another case which is also filed at the Kiambu court, the representation of the people living with a disability. Two cases. Yeah. I mean, when you look at these two cases, let's come back and talk about the issue of the mandate of IEBC. The voter registration is something which is continuous. You've correctly put it. Continuous process.
It's meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Yes.
There's supposed to be, cleaning of the register, just checking on what is happening, the limitation of the boundaries, which is long past, by the way.
Long overdue.
It's long overdue. Let's talk about the issue of even funding, because they'll talk about we have to get enough funding to run the next election. What system are we going to use? Technology are we going to use in the next election? The procurement process, training of the clerks and the officials in the constituencies, and nationally speaking. Do you think, and so speaking, Justice Lenaola, as a judge of the Supreme Court, perhaps he knew something, that with all these things, the delays which we are now experiencing as a nation, at the end of an election, litigations will be there. Do you know where they will land?
Yeah, they land at the Supreme Court.
On their desk. So, as a Kenyan, not as a judge then, as a Kenyan, perhaps somebody will say that was a clean advice. You guys, sort this out before it lands on our desk, because it's going to be tedious then.
Yeah. Well, it is true. The delay to reconstitute the commission puts our country in a very precarious situation. It's caused Kenyans to raise so many questions, and you cannot rule out the possibility of Kenyans reading mischief in this whole delay. But I want Kenyans to know that President William Samoei Ruto is not responsible. You see, he already put in place the selection panel until these people went to challenge it in court. So President William Ruto was ready and willing to play his part until this matter was... So President William Samuel Ruto is not responsible. That is first, put that aside. But then, the continuous delay, and I think the judiciary needs to exercise some sense of urgency in determining these matters. Because if I'm not wrong, the matter was filed under a state of urgency.
Yeah.
So, because it's just that, urgent, the judiciary needs to exercise itself urgently and dispose of this matter as soon as possible so that this exercise kicks off. So then, because at the end of the day, now the blame is beginning to turn to the judiciary, because this matter was not like it was filed last week.
Yeah.
This matter has been on their desk for a while, for months now. So where is the urgency in determining this matter? So even the judiciary itself is complicit in this matter, and they are also to blame to a large extent, because I'm sure, just like Justice Lenaola raised the question, why is it that up to now the commission is not, and that question is being raised by a ranking member of the judiciary. The matter is being handled at a lower court. So if a ranking member, a judge of the Supreme Court, asks such questions, the question is, why are these other officers not exercising urgency in determining these matters? So that to me is also the big question.
Yes.
Because once a matter is brought for litigation, it is the responsibility of the judges to exercise their minds to it and to determine what is urgent. And all these judges, there are none of them who are expatriates who have just been given a contract to come and be judges in Kenya. They are all citizens of Kenya, and they are alive to the urgency of this matter. So the fact that they are taking this long in itself is not right from where I sit. So first of all, Ruto is not responsible, Kalonzo's hands are not clean, and the judiciary is dragging its feet in a matter that is of national importance.
And this will have a ripple effect.
It will, because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, it will put a lot of unnecessary pressure on the on the new commission.
Yes.
And it will make them vulnerable, to make them susceptible to manipulation, to intimidation, to blackmail, because they have so much to do within a very short time. Even if they were to be given all the resources, still that pressure is too much. It's too much. So it puts the new commission in a very, very precarious situation. Yeah. So we cannot fail to read mischief in all this.
You're right, Reverend, because in the last election, the entire commission will have to sit down and do an audit of the last election, go through the report. What happened? What went wrong? What are some of the missing gaps that they had in the last election, and where they can join the dots and where they can make corrections if necessary? The issue of procurement is always a very big issue. Budgeting, training of the officials, nationally speaking, the distribution of electoral materials. Some of the constituencies in the country do not have representation. Banisa does not have a representation, almost 2 years now, and several wards across the country. Ugunja. So what will be the priority of the commission? Let's just say if set up by next week or next month or early January.
One of their biggest priority would be, first of all, to see how those by-elections are organized, because those people deserve to enjoy their constitutional right to representation. Another is to see how they can quickly and urgently kickstart the process of voter registration, because we have close to 10 million youth
who are supposed to be registered.
So who qualify to be registered as voters. So they have a lot on their plate, but for me, those would be the top two. And I don't know about the process of boundary delimitation, because it's actually boundary delimitation is supposed to take place first before even voter registration.
Because it's supposed to be after every 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if the boundaries have not been delimited,
yes,
you cannot do voter registration before boundary delimitation, because every person wants to choose which constituency they want, because you can't force me to be in this constituency.
And which are some of the polling stations created.
So the implication is that it can lead to a lot of unnecessary litigation.
Yeah. Because
someone can say, you can't force me to be in this constituency. I want to be in that neighboring constituency, which is just across. So there's going to be the issue of voter registration. There are going to be issues if the delimitation does take place. Then there's going to be possibility of so many voter transfers. So it's not a main task. It's the commission has a humongous task ahead of them, and if they are going to succeed, this matter has to be addressed urgently. The issue under litigation has to be disposed of urgently, and the government, Treasury must, of necessity, ensure that all the resources that are required for the commission to discharge its mandate and everything that it needs to do, those resources are available, not piecemeal. Those resources are availed, because some of the things that the commission needs to do are long overdue. Yeah. So the resources, I just hope that Mheshimiwa Pio and I has that sack of money just sitting somewhere kwa buti ya gari waiting to be delivered as soon as the commission is concerned.
Look at it this way. We are looking, so what is now happening? Opiyo Wandayi is now a CS. Constitutionally, he ought to have dropped that position of being a member of parliament of Ugunja. To this date, it has not been declared vacant. That position has not been declared vacant. So what is now happening? So he's serving as a CS and a member of parliament at the same time?
No. Because it's the mandate of the commission. Now the commission is not fully constituted. The law says the chair of the commission shall declare a vacancy. So we don't have commissioners. We don't have a chair.
So now what's
happening? The secretariat CEO cannot announce a vacancy, because that's not his mandate. It does not fall within the purview
in law. It's vacant.
It is vacant, yeah. Legally, it's vacant. The moment that he took up the role of the CS, and he was sworn in, so automatically, legally,
so we have got two constituencies now,
not
lacking representation in parliament.
We have Magarini, we have Ugunja, and we have another one, if I am not wrong.
And Reverend, when you listen to Justice Lenaola raising this concern, I really don't want us to speak on his behalf, but he started this discussion. What do you really think ran through his mind before he took that mic and said, Kenyans, listen, this is what I'm submitting. It's the issue of IBC. Because that's the question. What do you really think ran through his mind to date? I know you've talked about the issue of a lower court handling the matter, but a member of the apex court raising that concern that there is a problem here. But the political class can also not be excused fully.
Of course, they can't.
Go ahead.
So I think it's good, it's okay that Justice Lenaola decided to play the devil's advocate on this matter, because he is cognizant of the pressure, because that pressure will always escalate to the Supreme Court, and that's where he sits. And so what he's basically saying is ringing the alarm bells and saying, this is unnecessary. We don't need to take the nation through this, because at the end of the day, you will find so many, this thing will open the door to so many unnecessary litigations, because there are so many breaches of the Constitution and flagrant violation of constitutional rights of citizens that can easily lead to litigations, not multiple litigations. So it was right. It was only right that a judge of the Supreme Court raised that matter.
Yes.
And since then, there has been a sense of urgency. The political class have been discussing the matter in every forum, in funerals, in meetings, in rallies. The issue of IEBC has now taken the front line. So the fact that it's being discussed, I think, awakens the players and those who are supposed to ensure that this commission is in place to the reality that this thing is becoming urgent now to all Kenyans, not just a few who used to whisper once in a while or to mention in one forum or another. But now every Kenyan is talking, including people on social media. Even those who don't really understand the mandate.
Yes. Because IEBC today.
Exactly. That's now the power of social media.
Yeah.
Everybody now is talking about IEBC. So it now mounts pressure on those who are supposed to make those tough calls to ensure that this thing is done.
I don't just to be, but let's look at the end from the beginning. Let's look at 2027. Elections are here. The date is already announced and we are going to the polling station and here we are. With all these things happening, what would you, I know you're a reverend, but put that aside. What vision do you have for 2027 as far as election is concerned, with all this debacle that we're having?
You see, the election date is just one day and a culmination of so many events. So it's just like a tsunami that starts in the middle of the ocean. And innocent people are having their good time at Kenyatta Beach and enjoying themselves in Diani, in Hawaii, or wherever, in the Seychelles, Mauritius.
Let's talk about Rusinga Island as well.
Or Rusinga Island. And people enjoying themselves. But when the tsunami begins and gains momentum, by the time it arrives at the coast, that's when people feel the impact. So the election period or date is actually like the beach and the coastline. So this pressure that has begun will continue to escalate, will continue gaining traction. By the time it comes to 2027, the impact will be felt on the election. One, the credibility, it's likely to affect the credibility of the election. People are bound to raise so many questions about whether the commissioners who are put in place are actually genuinely for Kenyans or they are there to do the bidding of the powers that be. So there are so many issues that can arise from the delay to put commissioners in place. Because people can say these ones were just people who are handpicked the last minute to do the bidding of the powers that be. So that has the implication of affecting the credibility of the election. And so all it will require will be just some little trigger and things might not go well. So it's a very, we are treading on very dangerous and slippery ground as a nation, as far as the issue of IEBC is concerned.
All right, we are coming to the end. I want to give you 2-3 minutes. It's been a good year. To some extent a tough one, generally for everybody, including the government. We've had our fair share. Maybe 2-3 things that you can take home this year. What lessons have you learned so far, up to where we are today?
Well, one thing that I have learned is that as a nation, regardless of the challenges that we are faced with, we've always managed to come through. We've always managed to come out. And that is the consolation that I have, that as a nation, it will always be well, because nobody really thought that we would be where we are today, especially in the aftermath of the Gen Z protests. Nobody really thought that we'd still have a nation left and a government in place, and still moving forward as a nation and growing stronger and stronger. So I have learned that growing a democracy is not easy. You know, while we admire other democracies that have been over 100 years in the making, we have to remind ourselves that we are just 60-something years old as a nation. So our democracy is still taking making its baby steps, and everything that is happening is important to strengthen our democracy, and for everyone to know, even in the days to come, that there are some things that are not out of the realm of the possible. For example, nobody thought that it would be possible to impeach a deputy president. But it has happened in Kenya, and the country is moving on. So in the future, anybody who comes into government, if it has been possible to impeach a deputy president, it will not be impossible to even to remove a president from office. There's already an established, because it's the presidency, an established president. So in the future, we expect our democracy to become better. For those who are charged with the responsibility of leading our nation to be conscious of the rights of the citizens, it's going to be helpful. So I think the protest did help to that extent, the call for accountability in leadership, and I think the president has almost been a lone voice in this. The cabinet secretaries, the majority of them are running around with their flags, but not many are speaking to the citizens. The president has become almost a lone voice in this, so that is one of the things that I have noticed. And it continues to be a concern. He himself did raise that issue. He expected that there would be so many others within the ranks of the executive and government speaking to the citizens, so that citizens are able to appreciate what government is doing. Because the reason people are saying the government is doing nothing, while the government is really doing something, is because there is a disconnect between the government in terms of communication and the citizens, so that for the citizens to conclude the government is doing nothing and yet the government is doing something, it means the citizens are not really being put in the loop. So it is something that I have learned, and I believe that it is something that can be corrected and will be corrected, and that citizens will begin to appreciate everything that is happening.
Thank you. All right, very good. That's where we wrap it up. It's been 1 hour already, and we've done that.
Just like that.
It's been a good run, Reverend.
Yes.
Whole year. I want to thank you sincerely on behalf of my colleagues here at the Broadcasting House. This is my last show with you this year until next year, God willing. And we just 30 seconds. Merry Christmas and your best wishes to your fellow Kenyans as well.
Well, my fellow Kenyans, it has indeed been a great privilege for me to be here and to be able to speak to you. First of all, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2025, and to remind you to remain hopeful and to believe, because this is our country. Let us remain united and peaceful. Let us be respectful to each other. And that is the only way we can be able to move forward as a nation and to be successful.
Thank you so much. And remember, responsibility is also important, and we have to do things with moderation, right?
Yes, sure.
Very great. All right, we are taking a break, and we come back. I want us to talk about the issue to do with the Public Service Superannuation Scheme, which will be having its 3rd annual general meeting, and talk about that. Do you know anything to do with the superannuation fund and scheme?
No.
Have you prepared for your retirement?
I'm not planning to retire.
Oh, okay.
Planning to retire anytime soon.
Honorable Cliff Ongamati in studio.
I'm still a small young man.
Come on. Come on. You need to prepare for your retirement. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. Good morning.
Thank you.